The smell of coffee and bacon filled the small-town diner that morning. The kind of place where every booth had a story and every regular had scars you couldn't see. Outside, the sun was barely rising over the misty hills, painting the glass windows in hues of gold and amber. Inside, a man sat alone at the counter, shoulders slightly hunched, wearing a faded army jacket and a quiet look that spoke louder than words. His name was Jack Carter, a single dad, a war veteran, and a man still haunted by the ghosts he brought home from battle. But today, Jack wasn't thinking about the war. He was thinking about his little girl, Lily. She was 8, bright-eyed, and the only light left in his world since her mother passed away. He promised her pancakes before school, a rare treat they both looked forward to. For once life felt almost normal, and then everything changed. CTA Fan 1. If you love emotional, real-life stories that touch the soul, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to Soul Spark, your home for stories that remind us what courage, kindness, and humanity really mean. The diner bell jingled harshly as a group of 3 men walked in, loud, brash, and full of swagger. They weren't from around there. You could tell from their expensive boots, slick haircuts, and the arrogance that came with thinking you owned every room you walked into. At the head of the trio was a man named Rick Dalton, a local contractor with more money than manners, known for his temper and for picking fights he never had to finish himself. Rick spotted Jack sitting quietly at the counter. There was something about him that triggered that insecure itch in men like Rick. Maybe it was the calmness, the silence, or that mysterious tattoo on Jack's forearm. A black dagger through a winged skull. "Hey, soldier boy," Rick said with a smirk as he slid onto the stool beside him, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "What's that tattoo supposed to be? Some secret club?" Jack didn't look up. "Just a memory," he said softly, focusing on pouring syrup over Lily's pancakes. "Oh, a memory, huh? What are you now, a hero? Or just another guy who couldn't cut it out there and came home to live off pity?" Rick chuckled, his buddies laughing behind him. Jack stayed silent. He'd learned long ago that silence had power, but bullies always mistook it for weakness. Rick leaned closer, sneering. "You know, people like you love showing off your army crap. But let's be honest, it's all talk. The real heroes don't come back." The words sliced through the air like a knife. A few heads turned, forks paused mid-air. The waitress froze near the coffee pot. Lily's small hand reached for her dad's sleeve, sensing the tension. "Daddy," she whispered. Jack's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "You should watch your words around children." Rick laughed and slapped his shoulder hard. "Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to upset the war hero." "What's wrong?" "Tough guy. You gonna cry?" That's when it happened. Rick, in a flash of mockery, smacked Jack across the face. The sound cracked through the diner like thunder. Dishes rattled. The entire place went silent. Lily gasped, her eyes wide with tears. For a second, the world stood still. Jack didn't move. He just slowly turned his head back toward Rick, his expression unreadable. His right hand, the one with that tattoo, rested calmly on the counter. The same hand that once pulled brothers from burning vehicles and faced enemies with nothing but grit and instinct. But instead of hitting back, Jack took a breath and looked at Lily. "Finish your pancakes, sweetheart," he said gently. Rick smirked. "That's what I thought," he muttered, turning to leave. But as he stood, the waitress, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, stepped in. "Rick, that's enough. You've crossed a line." "Oh, please," he scoffed. "The guy's a coward. Look at him. Probably got that tattoo from a cereal box." Someone near the back spoke up quietly, a man who had been staring at that tattoo since Rick walked in. His voice trembled as he said, "That's not just any tattoo." Everyone turned. "That's a Delta Force insignia." The air shifted. Even Rick's friends froze. The man continued, standing now. "Only one kind of person wears that mark. Someone who's been through missions we'll never hear about. Delta operators don't brag, and they don't talk. They just do the impossible and come home with scars we can't even imagine." Rick's smirk faltered. He looked back at Jack, who was now quietly folding Lily's napkin, unfazed. But it was too late. The damage was done. Jack stood up slowly, his height suddenly towering, his presence like a storm cloud about to break. His voice was low but firm. "You ever hit a man who won't fight back again, and I'll make sure you remember it for the rest of your life." Rick's mouth opened, but no words came out. The diner was silent except for the quiet hum of the neon sign outside. Jack dropped a few bills on the counter, enough to cover the meal and a generous tip, then turned to his daughter. "Let's go, sweetheart." As they walked past Rick, Jack paused, not in anger, but in mercy. He met Rick's eyes and said softly, "The hardest battles aren't fought out there. They're fought in here," tapping his chest. "You'll learn that one day." Outside, the morning light hit them as they stepped into the street. Lily held her father's hand tighter. "Daddy, why didn't you hit him back?" she asked, looking up at him with teary eyes. Jack smiled faintly. "Because sometimes strength isn't about fighting, Lily. It's about knowing when not to." That night, the story spread through the town like wildfire. People whispered about the quiet veteran who never lifted a hand yet silenced the loudest bully. The diner owner later hung a photo of Jack and Lily near the counter, not as a legend but as a reminder. Weeks later, Rick Dalton walked back into that same diner, this time alone. He looked different, humbled. He asked the waitress for Jack's address, saying he wanted to apologize, but Jack and Lily had already moved. No forwarding address, no trace left behind, just a memory of the day a silent warrior taught a town what true power looked like. CTA Fine too. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Soul Spark, where every story reminds us of the quiet strength hidden in ordinary souls. Years later, Lily would tell her own children about that day, how her father, a man marked by a dagger and wings, showed her that true heroes don't always fight battles with fists or guns. Sometimes they win by walking away with grace, teaching the world that silence can roar louder than violence. And somewhere in the hearts of everyone who heard the story, that truth remained. A spark of soul, passed from one life to another, reminding us that courage isn't found in vengeance, but in restraint, and that even legends can sit quietly, having pancakes with their daughters.